There are several things that we did not elaborate sufficiently in the top section, but you'll just have to prepare. Safety. As we already discussed, but I want to re-emphasize it so we have some kind of clarity and understanding what this supplication is all about. And the beetle. In fact, as we shall see in a few moments, this application is not something that results from contemplation, from conscious preparation on the part of a person. It is not his seichel that leads him to it. This is the expression of the neshama that is in him, of a truth that's beyond his own seichel. Where this truth draws him and compels him to relate to the divine truth in a true manner. And this isn't that it compels him. It is not that it drags him against his will. No, it is the actual truth that he subscribes to it, that he's drawn to it. Except he's drawn to it at a level beyond his own comprehension. This is why there is this profound beetle and complete negation of oneself. Due to the fact that this beetle, that it's rooted in something which is beyond, which is not in himself, in his own experience. It's not due to his own search, so to speak. This is what he is, what the Rebbe should put into him. Thus, he has the capability, not only capability, he's the drawer, and the exclusive acceptance, the only thing that he accepts really is complete union with the Meibos. Because that is in fact his truth. Complete union with the Creator himself, that is what AYIN is. Not as a created being in a worldly environment, but the Creator in the Creator's environment. This is why there is his complete supplication. This is why, as I explained before, he considered himself totally impure, unworthy, because this is a purity that is beyond comprehension. Now let's start again from the bottom section of page Kuf Mem Aleph. V'zehu, and thus this is the meaning of the pasuk: judges and ministers and officers. He should appoint in all your gateways. What are these gateways? Where should you appoint them, judges? And why are the gateways? The Shach explains this in a very interesting thing. Shehein chushei hanefesh. These gateways is the chushim of the nefesh. The chushim means the senses of the nefesh. Simply means saying this is how the nefesh senses that which is around itself. It senses its environment. And therefore, at these gateways, sensing its environment, one must appoint judges and officers to guard that these senses do not mislead him. וכדאיסא בספר יצירה, as it says in Sefer Yitzir, Zayin she'orim b'nefesh, there are 7 gateways in the nefesh. Again, Zayin she'orim, the gateways are the gateways, that which connects the nefesh to the outside environment. This outside environment could be very enticing. Sorry. It could be very enticing, it could be very interesting, to the extent that it can mislead him and draw him to connect to connect and get involved in that area rather than where he actually belongs, in the truth of the godly truth. What are the 7 gateways? Beis einai, 2 eyes. Clearly, the eyes are phenomenal gateways. The eyes expose a person to a worldly presence as a truth. The eyes tell the person, hey, this is the truth. The reality in itself. You can't ignore that. This is the real thing. And therefore there has to be a judge at this gateway to say, wait a second, where are you going? This is not where you belong. Sometimes you have to function there, but this is not where you belong. This is not, you are not going to get guidance from what you observe. The reason you observe it is because you have a function there. You have to influence that rather than be influenced by it. The primary gateway, the most powerful one, is the einayim, is the eyes. The reason the einayim are the most powerful ones is because einayim represent chokhmah. At the physical level, it's like chokhmah. And if we reflect on it, we can see clearly how the similarity between einayim and chokhmah, because einayim, that's the sighting itself, tells you the whole thing, the whole picture. And it's so real, and it is real, but it's a worldly reality. And therefore one has to have a judge present, not only a judge but an officer that compels him, hey, reminds him, take it easy. It may seem like a truth, but this is not your truth. You have a function here. Beis oznai, 2 ears. The ears also, excuse me, are very effective gateways. The ears are able to hear. The sounds that the ears hear are not only words that one can judge what the words are about, but the sounds of the words that the ears hear.
To remain on this call, press 1.
The sounds that the ears hear touch a person very deeply. It's not just words that he has to judge with his seichel, what the words say. He hears a beautiful sound, the music. Music reaches a person very deeply. Music seems to be talking to his nefesh. But music coming from an outside source may be talking about a beauty that is strange to his neshama. A beauty that is strange to his neshama. based on completely different principles. I don't have to elaborate on this. It's clear. Beis nikve hachetem, the two openings of the nostrils, are also gateways to the world. At this level, there are two aspects. Number one, pardon me, I don't know what, but
just want to make a remark about. I just want to say about music. The person, it could happen that when a person plays music and it comes out perfectly, it's an incredible elevation of the neshama.
it depends where the aim is and where it's coming from. It seems that way. It seems that way. It's not an elevation, it's excitement. They're two different things. One gets very excited. The question is, what's next? This elevation, if it leads to good deed, yes, it's an elevation. If it leads to taivas, it's the opposite. This is where the world can be very confusing, because the world is a beautiful creation. And it has this truth to the point that you can see it by sight. It's so real. And yet you have to have these judges and officers. What need the officers for? The judge, because the judge is not enough. Because even if you understand that this is the wrong direction, without having an officer on the gateway and saying, if you go there, I'm going to give you a ticket, it's not going to work. We all know where there is dangerous turns on the road, and yet we have to have the policeman is the one who keeps us in line, and otherwise we're going to make the wrong turns, we're going to cross the red light, and we're going to create havoc.
What is
the officers?
What is the officer doing to compel? What's the equivalent of the ticket here? What's the officer end up doing? Beyond what the judge already did?
Right. So see, this is the pasuk says, you appoint the judges, you appoint the officers. In other words, there is not anyone on the side standing there and reprimanding you and saying, "Hey, remember you have don't make this turn." It is the responsibility of the individual, because of his recognition of his true dedication, or his true reality, of his true connection, the presence of the king himself. So the king allows him to go into the world. But he says to him, I'll let you go into the world, but remember, you have to have a judge and you have to have an officer with you. You be the judge and you be the officer. Without your engaging your officer's quality, which means that you simply stop yourself on dime. Say, this is not supposed to go there, no matter how beautiful and enticing it is.
Wait, just stopping yourself on the dime. The judge already said that's not the way to go, and seemingly that was not sufficient.
That's right.
What's the officer is adding additional argument?
Said, okay, very good, very good. The difference between the judge and the officer is the judge says it's not right, it's not good. The officer says, don't go there, period. You're not allowed to go there. You're prohibited to go there. I'm not going to explain to you why and wherefore. This why and wherefore becomes a debate, a whole discussion. The why and wherefore itself gets a person involved in where he shouldn't be getting involved. Because in order to know why and wherefore, you have to have a taste of what it is that you shouldn't. And the taste of love it can contaminate him.
So wait, the officer like pushes it away with both hands, and just gives greater clarity, and this is how the turnaround is done.
That's right, exactly right. It's very important. This is a lifesaver. The and then ultimately there is this gateway of the mouth. The mouth is involved in terms of tasting of food. The mouth is involved in terms of expressing one's thought and connecting and speaking. We do not realize how enticing it is and how it develops unawares. You start talking about something, and the talking goes so smoothly and so interesting, and you lose sight where you're going. And in no time, you turn out to talk Lashon Hara. You turn out to talk about taivas and all kinds of different things. And talking is extremely effective. The reason talking is so effective is because it actualizes the thought. It becomes so tangible or so real. And at that point, you don't realize itself, the mouth itself will not say, oh, this is poison. It doesn't know the difference. That's why there has to be an officer at the gateway. The officer, you appoint yourself. You have to constantly turn to the officer and say, hey, officer, am I allowed to go there? Yeah. Okay, now we just discussed it already, but let's go inside. The end of the second line. There must be the judgment, the hagdora and the boundary, the limit, applied to every all the chushim of the nefesh. Again, chush is the sense that connects a person to the outside. Number one, that he should be oitzem ein of closing his eyes, meireis bara, from seeing that which is evil. And stopping his eye, his ear, mishmoya, from hearing what he should not be hearing. And shutting his mouth, mildaber, from speaking what he should not be speaking. What enables a person to create this phenomenal system, discipline? All of these things are very enticing. And it's constantly arguing, what's wrong? I'm not hurting anyone. This is a very common statement. I'm not hurting anyone. You're hurting your own neshama. And it's not only hurting the neshama, you are violating your connection to the Meibesh. That's even more serious of a violation. If Chas v'Shalom that doesn't faze him, then he really needs an officer with a stick. V'kol zeh, 2 lines from the bottom. V'kol zeh, this entire accomplishment, this entire effect is because mitzad habitul, because of the bitul bibchiras hanochas atzmusay. A beetle that reaches the point of hanochas atzmusay, of putting himself to the side. The fact that it's enticing and interesting and pleasing is not a valid reason to go there, because you don't belong to yourself at this point. You're in the service of the Meibesh. You're not your own person.
Wait, saying that the efficacy, the effectiveness of the shoftim v'shoitrim is based on the bitul.
Hanochas atzmusay.
Because without that, you do your own thing, as it were. But you have to.
Well, let's explain. Since that the shoftim v'shoitrim is titan lecha, you appoint them. If you appoint the judge, you appoint the officer,
you can impeach them too.
You can impeach him in no time.
Mm-hmm.
You can fire him.
Fired. Mm-hmm.
But because hanochas atzmusay, because he had already dedicated himself, he put himself on the side. You are not to judge. You are not to have jurisdiction over your officer. The officer has jurisdiction over you, even though it's your appointee. Because you appointed him to be an officer to guard you from violating your connection to the Meibesh. Hanochas atzmusay. Hanochas atzmusay, this is what enables this whole phenomenon.
Is the word commitment appropriate here? You when you appointed this officer, you made a commitment. Is that correct? So come later, you've put yourself aside. I'm under the commitment I made.
Correct. But think in the word commitment that I made. The I is already an interference with this whole commitment.
So it's more what we'd call a bris, a covenant done with the nefesh elokis.
That's why it's done. It's done. You're not under your control.
As if to say you could not impeach these guys anymore.
That's correct. Hanochas atzmusay. Let's think about the word hanochas atzmusay. You put yourself on the side. Who is in control of who you are? You are now in a different environment. You're not in your worldly environment. You're not in an environment that you experience. You are in an environment, in a godly environment.
It does seem like, on the one hand, we were empowered to put them in place, and on the other hand, we sort of forego. We make as if we cannot impeach them.
Correct.
Okay.
Right. That's wonderful. So let's think. The more clear we understand them, the more effective they will be. We were empowered to appoint the officers. The reason we empowered to appoint the officers is because we were given this sense of the absolute truth and the absolute reality in the nefesh. Because of that, you are privileged to appoint your own officers. But then, when you start going into the world, you have to obey those officers. You cannot there then use your power of appointment. You were empowered to drive. You were given a license. You got a license. Does that mean that you are now completely devoid of any responsibility to the one who gave you the license? The one who gave you the license is still holding the license in his hand. Officer, I got a license. Yes, but you violated the rule. I'm glad you laughed.
I gotta remember that one next time I get a ticket. But officer, I have a license.
Yeah. All of these 7 gateways, even the mouth that speaks. You think I'm speaking, I'm creating this speech. Speech is a very, very enticing experience. Once you start talking about something, it's hard to dissociate. We do not realize how enticing is a speech of Lashon Hara, Rahman Islam. Something it passes us by unnoticed. People can spend hours, literally, in engaging this kind of speech. And the only thing that will stop them is that appointed officer. And you have to remember, yes, I appointed the officer. The reason I appointed the officer is because this is my lifesaver. My lifesaver. I better remember why I appointed this officer. So all that is accomplished and functions as a result of the bittul b'anochas atzmus. Oh, let me get to this. At the very end of the second line from the bottom, shezehu mitzad habittul, that this is due to the bittul, the chokhmah, the bittul of the level of chokhmah. What is the level? What is the bittul of chokhmah? They said like in sight. In sight, you see the thing. You don't have to actively see it. Sight comes to you automatically because it's the reality itself. This is the bittul of chokhmah. Chokhmah, you see the reality, the reality without effort, because you see the truth of the divine reality itself. This engenders a bittul, because you're constantly in the presence of the divine presence. You don't even have to contemplate what it is. This is the bittul of chokhmah. And then the koyach harotzen shebenefesh. Even above that, the koyach harotzen and nefesh. What's it koyach harotzen? This is rotzen is already above seichel, above chokhmah. Koyach harotzen shebenefesh is this. Yes, indeed. In Tant Chokhmah, I see the divine truth. The divine truth is very, very enticing, very interesting. It's a wonderful experience. If you pursue it from that angle, it's going to mislead you, 100%, guaranteed. Once you substantiate anything, no matter how pure and great, because of its enticement, it's going to mislead you. You have to remember where this koyach chokhmah comes from. It is the koyach harotzoin shebenefesh. Rotzoin is without a personal experience. Rotzoin is that which identifies the truth in its purest state. Not because of your experience. This is the truth that the nefesh wants. The koyach harotzen shebenefesh. This is why there is the inyan for hanochas atzmus. There is not a justification. There's not an experience involved. This is where I want to be because that is where I want to be. Period. This is what enables this whole process of controlling the gateways. You can't even stop and say, that's the right thing to do. Forget it. You're going to get lost there. This is not your judgment. It's not your understanding. This is prevented by the officer from going there. That is the way. That is the only way it works. Okay, let's continue in the bottom line. And as a result of this, through all this whole process, Nasa Memela is automatically affected, Hahagdora, the limitation, the boundary, in all limbs of the body, the hands and the feet and everything. If you have the officers on the gateway of these 7 gateways, then you hold all the activity is under control. V'zehu, thus, this is expressed in the Pasuk. V'shavtu es ha'or mishpat tzedek. They will judge the people. The Pasuk goes, judges and officers shall appoint in all gateways. V'shavtu es ha'or mishpat tzedek, and they will judge the people, mishpat tzedek, a judgment of truth, a righteous judgment. What judgment is this referred to? If you already have gateways, if you have officers on the gateways, what judgment is it now? They will judge the people. This applies to the mishpat in all the Ivorei Haguf. These gateways, judges and officers, translate in all the Ivorei Haguf, because what leads a person any place is one of these 7 gateways. Since these 7 gateways have an officer, therefore, the Ivorei Haguf, or the activity, is under judgment. Any place that you want that you consider going, you already have judgment, but they should be going there or not. Why?